Hello everyone, welcome back to another collection video, and this is going to be the biggest television collection video we have yet to put together. As you can see by the books behind me, we're going to be talking about the Stargate franchise today. And as far as a franchise, not a series, but as far as a franchise, this is my second favorite franchise behind Star Trek. One of my favorite franchises in general, and as far as science fiction, it's one of my most beloved television shows that I'm watching since I was a kid. Tremendous franchise, one I hope has some form of a return. And it's one of those franchises that both Amanda and I share a love for. She also is a big fan of this show, so it's one that we both enjoy watching. And to start off, we have the movie on VHS with Kurt Russell and James Spader, and this is the portion of the franchise where Amanda and I differ a bit, because she saw this movie in the 90s. I think she saw it on VHS first. I don't think she saw it in theaters, but she had an experience starting the franchise with the original movie and moving on from there, and she loves the movie. And it includes, James Spader is her favorite version of Daniel Jackson. She's a big Kurt Russell fan, so she really has a love for this movie. And I enjoy the movie. It's a great movie, but my experience is a little different because I never ran into this movie until SG-1 had been on the air for years. I actually think Atlantis had either started or was about to start by the time I saw the original movie. So I don't have quite the same adoration for it that she does, but it's still a very enjoyable movie. I like it a lot, and it's a great way to set up the entire franchise, and it is a starting point that I would suggest. And there have been, thankfully, a few books over the years related to the movie directly rather than SG-1, which is cool, so it's really fun to experience that because it's a slightly different feel than the show had. And we have the Sega Genesis game based off of the movie as well. A lot of fun. Great sci-fi movie, one of my favorite science fiction films of the 90s. And then we have two different versions on LaserDisc. This regular widescreen edition, 2-disc set, side 1 and 2 CLV, and side 3 is CAV. Pretty standard widescreen LaserDisc edition. And then this edition, which is the deluxe extended cut of the movie. It's a few extra minutes longer. Now that's kind of become the de facto cut that's put on most DVDs and Blu-rays. So it's more so the cut you'll run into, but it is a similar release to the other one. The packaging though is much cooler. It has the the extended scenes, things like 9 extra minutes. It has Dolby Surround, AC3 encoded. And it is a gatefold, but it's an odd gatefold. I'm going to move the camera here to show this one. Because instead of opening to the sides like a normal gatefold, this is the only one of these that I own. It's a gatefold that opens up long ways. So it's a very interesting gatefold design. And then as formats moved on, we have the Director's Cut Ultimate Edition on DVD. And this has a ton of extra features. This is a very enjoyable copy to have, with a making of and all kinds of extra features. There's a featurette also including interviews with Eric von Daniken, the author of Chariots of the Gods, and different audio commentaries and all kinds of different interesting extras to the movie. And then that same cut of the movie again was released on Blu-ray. So in itself, a very enjoyable movie, and I love what it does with the premise in relation to stories of ancient gods and mythology in general being related to alien contacts and how it's intertwined with our ancient history. And the idea for storytelling when it would move into the series is remarkable, because it opens up limitless possibilities where you have a system of Stargates traveling through a wormhole to other worlds anywhere. It's really, you can do anything you want with that concept, because It's a great unknown. It could lead to anything, any world, any place out there in our corner of the galaxy. And then as the show expanded even beyond our own galaxy, so really you could do anything with that idea. And they would do a lot with that idea because the first iteration of Stargate on TV was Stargate SG-1, and that lasted for 10 years. And we'll start with this beautiful, complete series DVD box set. I did a more in-depth video looking at this before, and I'll make sure I link that at the end of the video. This is my single favorite piece of the entire Stargate collection that we have, because it is a beautiful box set. I absolutely love it, and it's so unusual for a science fiction franchise like this to last as long as it did. There's all the DVDs in these two sets in the middle. Because science fiction in general, like, as much as we love it and as popular as a show like Stargate is, it's never going to pull the same viewing numbers as a popular generic sitcom, something like Friends. And at the same time, it has a very high production cost with all the props, all the special effects, and just everything going into a science fiction series, so it's very unusual for a science fiction series to last so long. And we got 10 amazing years out of Stargate SG-1, and it built one of the great sci-fi franchises. So that is the complete series box set on DVD, a favorite piece of the entire collection. And then another one I did a video on talking about this release because it's kind of controversial in some of the elements of it, but I really, really enjoy it. The complete series on Blu-ray, a more recent release in one giant box set. And I love the tone and style of SG-1. It takes the movie and adds some more lighthearted elements, a little more humor. It has a slightly different feel. I think Richard Dean Anderson is amazing. I enjoy him in MacGyver, but when I think of him, this is the role I think of him in over anything else. He just fits it so perfectly. The entire cast is incredible, and it manages to make its way through a decade of TV programming without ever losing its quality. Most shows that I've run into that last anywhere near that long tend to have a dip in quality somewhere along the line. Usually the idea is really stretched out and forced to last longer than the quality storytelling it can really put forth. But I love SG-1 the entire way through. But that being said, there are different eras of the series, some cast changes, some tonal changes, different villains, different focus of the series because it was on for so long. And this is old school television we're talking about, where a season of a show isn't 6 to 10 episodes long. We're in the 20s usually for an entire season. So that is a lot of episodes and a long time to build different stories. And over the years, the era of SG-1 that I think is the best, what is my favorite, because it really is still at the heart of what the franchise built on with the original movie before moving into other things. As far as SG-1 is concerned, the first 4 seasons, that is my favorite era of SG-1. I love all the different eras as we go through, but this, if I had to pick a favorite, we have a sealed copy of the original DVD release of season 1. There are many different releases over the years. The original version was in these bigger box sets with the individual discs in here. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and Season 4. That is my favorite era of SG-1, that beginning portion of the franchise, when it was on its original network as well, before it moved to the Sci-Fi Channel. And there were some tonal shifts when it went to the Sci-Fi Channel to where the pace was picked up a little bit. It was slightly more action heavy. It was just a little different. The beginning of the series, moments occasionally felt a little more, in a positive manner, drawn out. and I like the pacing a little bit better. And my favorite way to start a rewatch of Stargate SG-1 is with this version of the pilot. This is the hour-and-a-half long final cut movie version of the pilot of the series. It's a great companion piece to the original movie and is a fantastic way to bridge the gap between the original movie and the series. I think this is the ideal way to get started. Lots of extra features as well. That final cut of the opening is just a great way to get into the series. Love the way that's put together. Then as the series was coming to a close, after some time spent with some new characters, with actors brought over from one of my favorite science fiction shows, Farscape, it came to a close without a real conclusion. It was a little sad because after 10 years, you were pretty much forced to make sure you went and grabbed a copy of the first movie, The Ark of Truth, because as much as I love the ending in general of the series, it wasn't quite the end. There was still an episode left. Like, it didn't finish its story. You have to watch The Ark of Truth to really get the ending of the last season of Stargate SG-1. And as a whole, I do like the Ark of Truth, but the Ori and everything with that at the end of the series is one of my least favorite villain arcs. I like what came directly before that a lot, and they were still very well done. The Ark of Truth is a great, solid send-off and kind of ending point for SG-1, but not my favorite era overall. And there were going to be, before the franchise was canned with the demise of Stargate Universe, more SG-1 movies. We got one with Continuum, which is a fun standalone adventure, but at the same time just feels like a slightly longer, slightly larger budget episode of the show. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy having more adventures with those characters. I do like Continuum, but at the same time it feels more like just an extra bonus, two-part episode of the show. And I would have loved to have seen more straight-to-DVD adventures with the crew from SG-1, but we sadly never got that. Now for the last part of the SG-1 collection before we move on. As I said, this is the biggest TV show collection that we have done at this point. Biggest one for a long time. I've been looking forward to doing this one because I really love Stargate. As a franchise, second only to Star Trek in the genre. As always with TV shows, I always select a couple of favorite seasons to have a newer additional release of. I always, if you watch my previous videos, it's always the case, Buffy, whatever it is, I Love Lucy. There's always a few special seasons that stand out to me. And for me, my favorites in the entire Stargate SG-1 series are seasons 3, 4, and 7. 3 and 4, I think, for me, I have these newer slim case DVDs. So the DVD style, we had the larger boxes, and then one that's about half that size, the same general design, but with those real thin case DVDs. And then they were re-released in this new packaging. I think 3 and 4 for me are the pinnacle of the entire series. Season 1, as much as I love it, does have a little trouble sometimes kind of figuring itself out and differentiating itself between the movie and what it was going to be. Season 2, they finally, I think, really nailed the concept down, and then season 3 and 4 perfected it. These are my two favorite seasons in the entire show. And then season 7, the journey to find the Lost City, the lead-in season to Stargate Atlantis, and the ending of this season is possibly this series at its very best. It was originally intended to be the end of the entire show, the end of season 7, and they went all out. It was amazing. So overall, season 7 is very high quality and is a lead-in season to the next part of the franchise. Now we move into my favorite part of the entire Stargate franchise, Stargate Atlantis. As much as I love SG-1, I prefer Atlantis. It did something a little different. It took the formula that SG-1 put together, took a different spin on it, throwing us in the Pegasus Galaxy with a brand new cast, and it's amazing. I absolutely love Stargate Atlantis. To me, there's a lot of similarities between the parallels between Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis and Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. And for me, I prefer Deep Space Nine as much as I love TNG. Similar thing with Atlantis. As much as I love SG-1, I prefer Atlantis. I love the city, I love the cast, I love the storytelling within Atlantis, and it's brilliant. I think it's some of the most genuine fun that I've ever had with a sci-fi series. And it starts off with one of my favorite premiere episodes of any show ever, not just Stargate, not just science fiction. This is easily within my top 5 premieres of any television show ever. Easily a top 5. I love it. Stargate Atlantis Rising. It's so well structured. This is the individual DVD release of Rising. And this did such a brilliant job of transitioning from one show into the next while SG-1 was still continuing during the first few seasons of Atlantis, and exploring and explaining the new concept, introducing the new cast, and it never felt like it was bogged down by exposition or any sort of pacing issues or any awkwardness with introducing new characters. It never had that feeling like sometimes premiere episodes can. Its premise was very solid. They knew what they were doing. It showcased everything that was going to be amazing and different about Atlantis, and it was exciting. Every couple of minutes, something else is happening. Some new problem, some exciting moment. Something is being introduced. Just a constant string, but it never feels overwhelming. It just feels like a continuous adrenaline rush, and it's fun. It's really good. I love Rising. I think it's a great introduction, and this is one of the few cases where from episode 1, I'm like, wow, I think this is going to be my preferred show. Really, really like it, and that continued. They also went through a few cast changes and tonal changes, but I think with every one of them, it actually bettered the show. So you have season 1, then season 2, where we get our first real cast change and the introduction of Jason Momoa as Ronan Dex. Season 3. Season 4, where we get Sam added to it. Carter's added mostly because of contractual agreements where, after the original series SG-1 ended, she still was to continue on, and she became the new leader of Atlantis for a while. Then we got another change with Woolsey in season 5. And there were also some cast changes in between there as well. I mentioned Jason Momoa. We also get a changeover with the Doctor as well. And I really like Dr. Keller, Jennifer Keller. Amanda's not so fond of her in that role, but I really like her, and it's my second favorite role. Jewel, of course, under Firefly playing Kaylee, but I think she does a fantastic job, and as a great addition to the cast. Again, all 5 seasons. The show is incredible and has such a tremendous standard of quality throughout the entire thing. But sadly, as the franchise was put on hold and things were eventually canceled, it was canceled at the end of the 5th season, and we never really got on screen a resolution to the story, and there were some big plans for upcoming seasons. Thankfully, in book form, there is a continuation, a sort of a 6th season of the show. So that is at least we get that ending to the story. It's just sad that this show is canceled far too soon, as the opposite of SG-1, which lasted 10 incredible years. Atlantis didn't really get its full length before it was canceled. It really needed a couple more seasons. But what we got was incredible. I love Stargate Atlantis, and it's just such an amazing show. So we also have, to go along with that, the individual seasons on Blu-ray. Season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one thing I love about the Stargate franchise, and I think Atlantis did this even better than SG-1 did, was the integration of a lot of current real-life elements, a lot of fandom moments, a lot of in-jokes. There's even a pause for a moment of mourning over the loss of the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas and things like that. There's a whole lot where it really feels like it's a show that understands the kind of people that are watching it, and understands the other things outside of Atlantis that they tend to enjoy, and really just it becomes a part of its fandom rather than being something that people are just fans of. It feels like it is a part of its own fandom, and it really is just fantastic. And it's any interaction I've had with big fans of Stargate has always been very positive and welcoming as well. It just has that type of community feeling that the show created within its own cast, and how everything feels that resonates with the people watching it. And it just feels so great to be a part of this franchise, being a part of the experience of getting to watch this franchise. Then the few extra things we have for Atlantis. This is a really cool release, oddly titled, but this is a 2-episode collection. The double-length episode premiere and the final episode. It's called a Fan's Choice Collection, but it's kind of odd. A Fan's Choice Collection would be more like 3 or 4 fan-voted favorite episodes throughout the course of the series, but this is more of a bookend collection. It's a cool way of watching the beginning and ending of the series. So it has Rising and then Enemy at the Gate as a double feature. Cool little extra thing there. It's fun. And my 2 favorite seasons of the show, I think it was at its absolute best in season 3 and 4. 4 overall is my favorite in the entire show. I do prefer the command dynamic of Dr. Weir in the first 3 seasons, but most of my absolute favorite individual episodes happen to be in season 4. So overall, that ends up being my favorite season of the show. But again, it's a show that I think the quality just shot up immediately in the beginning, in the first season, and it stayed up, if not improving, as it went along. And yeah, it just ended too soon. Then the only other thing would be the very short-lived and not very well loved animated series, which that was a bit of a mistake, not any good. And then also Stargate Universe, which I do not own because there's no way I would ever rewatch an episode of that show. I really, really disliked it. It was hard to watch, and very, very upsetting almost to watch. It was one of those shows in the wake of the Battlestar Galactica reboot where it felt like it was tonally trying to be the new Battlestar Galactica. It was shot differently than SG-1 and Atlantis, which were shot very similarly. It was shot more like Battlestar Galactica. The general, even like the color scheme in that series compared to the very more bright and colorful elements of Atlantis and even SG-1. Everything felt very gray and stark, and I did not like the storytelling. The general concept was strong, could have done something with it, but I really did not like it. I had struggled through the first season, even watching there's pretty much a body swapping rape incident very early on, and everything about it just does not feel Stargate and did not appeal to me at all. I could not stand Universe, and that only lasted a few seasons and went away and kind of took the franchise with it. So sadly, that for now, as the time of filming this, is the end of Stargate Atlantis. There were a few small web-only projects and things like that since then, but we haven't had like a real Stargate series or movie since then. Hopefully we'll get more. There are rumors. Originally there were rumors of a continuation from the original movie, and that fell off, and then possibly a new series leading off from SG-1, and then more rumors of more of a reboot of the whole thing, and who knows what's going on, if anything. Hopefully someday we'll get some more Stargate, and hopefully, though, it will be good. Hopefully it won't be like when Star Trek came back, and hopefully it'll be more true to what SG-1 and Atlantis were like. So that is a look at our Stargate franchise. Again, huge collection. One of the biggest collections we have of anything. You know, Stargate is something Amanda and I have both been in love with since we were little kids, and still continue to enjoy and will continue to enjoy forever.